Riftmaker is a shit item except for like 3 champions. Pretty generally, yeah. It's not a very great item. Most mythics aren't very good. I mean, I could do a mythic tier list, I think. I could do a generalized mythic tier list. Hold on. Mythic item tier list. Lol. Does this exist? Season 12. Alright, let me see. Does this exist? Ah, fuck. Reset. Okay, where's all the mythics? Wait, does this have all of them? Boom, boom. Okay, Triforce, yeah. That's it, right? This is it. Okay, this is all the mythics. Okay. SAB worst. Alright, let's see this. So let's do worst. And B is going to be red in this context. A is going to be green. And then S will be darker blue. And then this will be light blue. And then we'll delete this. Delete row. Delete row. Okay, cool. Alright, so let's see. So Kraken Slayer is absolutely nuts. We already know that Kraken Slayer is pretty fucking nuts. Is this really all the mythics? Hold on. My Benudir. Shield Bow and Mandate are missing? Oh, fuck, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right, you're right. Okay. Ah, fuck. Hold on. Oh, dodge. Alright, cool. The Andres is just the best. I think I would say this is it. I would probably say, oh, maybe Sunfire is actually higher. I think Sunfire is higher for the chant. Yeah, I think Sunfire is actually higher. No, I think this is it. I think this is it. Yeah. I think this is it for sure. Delete row. Yeah, I think this is it. So, okay, let's talk about some of it. So, obviously, Kraken Slayer is pretty nuts on pretty much every single champion that buys it. It's also a game-defining item, which means that champions gravitate towards buying it, and that champions that are very proficient users of it become naturally more popular, and they tend to have a lot of benefit. It's an anti-item to a lot of, like, themes that are often almost always prevalent in the meta pretty much throughout and throughout. It just doesn't matter. It's just a really good item in general. Liandry's, ever since the change where it can obviously stack and whatnot, the percentage HP increase, the ability haste, everything that just like comes with it. Obviously, it's a very good item. Okay, let's see. They have Soraka. Do I have Blitzcrank? Oh, this game's so doomed. Oh, we're so fucking doomed. We have so much magic damage. We have four magic. Okay. So anyways, Liandry's is also a meta-defining item in most cases. Obviously, dot champions benefit a lot from it. There's non-mages that, I mean, well, not non-mages, but it's just, well, yeah, I mean, there is non-mage, well, mage in the sense that, like, even some melee champions can end up building Liandry's and ends up being very beneficial for them. There's even some, like, you know, non-traditional mid laners that can build this item. I think it's pretty good. Sunfire doesn't really need an explanation. It's just the best of the tank items whenever you can get it. Frostfire I put in S is mostly just because it's more utility centric, which means that the item is defined usually by the team compositions and like when you draft your champion rather than the item inherently being really good, which I think makes it differ from Sunfire. And then obviously Tank is I think the worst of all of them. And this is obviously for competitive, but I think Tank is usually the worst for all of them, but it does have a place sometimes, which I think is generally what I mean by the B tier, is that these items, very seldomly do they have a purpose, but when the purpose is there, the item is good, and the items can be valuable in a lot of other situations. And so I think in that regard, it can be okay. Moonstone doesn't really need an explanation. Again, it's another meta-defining item. There's lots of enchanters inside of the game. There's even some non-enchanters that can actually use the item that are like tanky and whatnot. Just a really good item. I mean, the power that the item gives is just way too much, especially ever since the change where you can proc it yourself. Gale Force and Shield Bow shouldn't also really need an explanation. I think that both of them are pretty self-explanatory as well. They're just two really, really, really solid, good items that while you're curving into them, everything's fine with it. Everything's good. Luden's, I think, is a little bit worse than Liandry's because it takes specific champions to want to utilize Luden's different than Liandry's. I think this is actually very akin to Sunfire versus Frostfire in terms of the utility and, like, practicality argument. And then Eclipse and Gore Drinker are both just here because I think that they're usually often the best in their class, but then Eclipse has a lot more practical usages than just being like a lethality only damage dealer type item. Obviously, it has a lot of utility inside of the item as well, so I think that's why that's there. Mandate is really good as the offensive enchanter item. When the enchanter doesn't want to go like Luden's or Liandry's, it offers a really nice alternative. Solari doesn't really need an explanation. And then Rocket Belt, Prowlers, Everfrost, and Sunder I think are all pretty much in the same tier. In that they're generally okay items. They're generally utility based. Some of them are champion dependent only. And then obviously for the worst tier, I put the worst tier. Eventroud is actually no. You know what? Let me just make Eventroud. So Eventroud has its own tier. So obviously Riftmaker, Night Troller, Trinity Force, and Stridebreaker, they all have a handful of a few champions build these items unironically. And even some of those champions actually oftentimes build other items. So this isn't even their premier item, but they're the only champions that build these items. So that's why I put it in the worst. Because these items literally only exist for those champions without almost any wiggle room. And these items are not meta-defining. Because these are not items that cause champions to gravitate towards them due to their inherent strength. Nor are they items that offer a wider range of options against, you know, a lot of different types of classes or like the playstyles that would come with it, etc. And so I think that all these items are really pigeonholed. This item, though, it's just like anytime I see it, it's instantaneous tilt. There's actually, like, I think a lot of people like to think that like the item that tilts me the most is like Morello or Collector or like something like that. It's actually this. This is unironically the item that probably just tilts me the most, because I think like. I think it's so difficult to really ever justify you having to go, this is your mythic. Because even in the situations where you do it on something like Leona or Nautilus, are really going to make the argument in most cases that, you know, you couldn't have just either unironically have gone Tank, or have just gone Solari if the situation called for it. And I think that's where, you know, I think that's where that comes in. Thank you.